Hello, welcome to another exciting episode of Summer's War. I'm your host, LPO3. Today we're looking at the Balance Patch Notes. So if you didn't know, if you've been under a rock or something, RTA season has finally ended. So then we get these Balance Patch Notes. If you didn't know what these are and didn't see my last videos, basically Contest gets together a group of like 2 people and they will address some key units that probably haven't been buffed in a long time. And then what they do is they draw names out of a hat and buff random crap in hopes of making them more relevant for, you know, more free-to-play people, more newer players, but for the most part they don't. And SWC is actually still going on, even though all the preliminaries are done. They're starting to move to the next stage, so none of this is going to be crazy relevant towards the RTA meta. But we'll see what they did. Light Phoenix Eludia. This is actually the only LD Nat 5 I have out of like 6-7 years of playing this game. Purifying Blaze. So this is an interesting third skill. It does a strip. If it actually does strip a beneficial effect, it will have a chance to defense break for 1 turn. And whether or not that happens, he'll then nuke right after that. The key thing here that's kind of unique is if something has a counter attack beneficial effect on, like Feng Yan, you can potentially strip that, armor break it, and then you hit the actual unit. And because you stripped it before you hit it, he doesn't counterattack back, which is very unique for that situation. It's also one of those things where, yeah, you defense first, and then you hit it. So the defense actually works in your favor of that skill. So even though this is only a 1-turn defense break, for some reason, it actually works in your favor because you do damage. So it's similar to like the Dark Occult Girl, which will buff first and then hit everything, something like that. Or things like the Light Ninja or Theomars, which has the armor break on one of the first hits, and then it'll do damage that will affect with the armor break on the second hit, third hit. So it's that kind of situation. However, basically you have something called Gemini, which is a light branding magician that's been free to play twice. It was in 2 Hollow Heroes, and it's just overall a better unit for what this does. And the fact is, yeah, the Light Phoenix wasn't very good to begin with, and it looks like they damage nerfed it. So the one thing that the Light Phoenix was good for is not good for that anymore. So weakens the defense and success move the special effect for 1 turn is now weakens the defense with no conditions. So because it was conditional, it made it kind of weak, because if the unit didn't have any buffs at all, you couldn't weaken the defense. And so then you just didn't do any damage. And the fact that you're bringing this in as your stripper, as your defense breaker, it wasn't very reliable. In RTA, when they try to do this, I end up having to bring Gemini. Gemini does everything the Light Phoenix does better. Even has this 1-turn defense break with the strip, and then you basically had a Light Phoenix to be a backup in case they ban Gemini, or in case Gemini missed the buff. Then the Light Phoenix can clean up the buff and then apply the defense break and then do the nuke. But for the most part, Gemini was too reliable, and the Light Phoenix could have been replaced by basically any other unit. The key thing about the Light Phoenix, and even this Dark Phoenix, and the Wind Phoenix basically, is those stats are bad. So the Light Phoenix in particular is only Nat 5 in the game that has less than 10k health, less than 500 defense, and less than 100 speed. It might be the same way for all the Nat 4s, but it's too hard to actually look at all those. But yeah, so basically it's the weakest and slowest Nat 5 in the game. And the only thing it has going for it is attack, but then when you nerf the damage, it's like, well, that's pretty much nerfing the attack, right? So I don't know what they're thinking. They need to do a lot more, including that part where this 1-turn defense break is ridiculous for basically any of this stuff. Any type of... The only other unit that has a 1-turn defense break AoE is the Browning Magician's second skill, like Gemini, like Orion, those kind of things. Everything else is a 2-turn AoE defense break, except for Annabelle, which is a 3-turn. But everything, I mean, like Galleon, Lure, Helena, Savannah, Retesh, Even the 3-star living armor has a 2-turn AoE defense break. And this is a freaking nat 5 LD. So if there's any other unit in the game that would actually have a 3-turn defense break, it'd be this one. Or it'd be a LD nat 5. Moving on. Dark Phoenix Jara. Fiery Path, the passive ability, is now branding effect 2 turns, defense break for 2 turns, and I think it goes up to 100% chance on max skills. When you defeat an enemy in your turn, it can't be revived in battle. That was already there. They got another part. On Awakening, Dark Nova, the second skill, Nuke. Gain a turn the enemy instantly, or if the enemy dies, you gain a turn instantly. So, ideally I look at this like a Theomars, where you can attack once with basically either skill, and then when you proc, you'll basically kill the unit. I'm assuming you would just kind of use the first skill first, and then if you apply all that stuff and get the proc, then your finisher is the second skill, and that will kill, you get the turn, and then you can set up your next teammate using the first skill, or you can maybe proc again or something. But the Dark Nova is the same nuke that Perna has. It does more damage based on the health of the enemy. Not the HP, but the health bar. So the closer it is to full health, the more damage you do to it. Compared to Light Phoenix and Sigmaris, they don't do as much damage. It's still proportional to max HP of the enemy. And if it crits, you get an inability effect. So Light Phoenix stuns, Water Phoenix freezes. But the Wind, Dark, and Fire has that as a huge nuke. The Novas. Wind Phoenix Teshar. Tempest is now passive. Huge damage decrease. It's like a 1/4 less damage than before. If you did an AoE 40,000, you do the AoE 30,000 now. Huge nerf. Attacks enemy with a violent storm after you attack on your turn. The cooldown time Tempest will reset the enemy die from your attack. So basically, they were too lazy to fix the AI. So now, when you attack with the first or second skill, it will then trigger the Tempest effect, and then if you kill something anywhere there, at least the Tempest gets reset. So you can still use this in scenario. You can still use this in the secret dungeons, and it's just a more reliable triggering the Tempest to clear the waves. However, the other place that people were using this was in lab and the time attack stages, where you just keep using Tempest to clear the waves. But because this increased attack bar thing is not in the bottom part, you can't really use this as effective as you were using before in lab. And actually, I already replaced my Teshar from that lab section, but it looks like you're basically removing one area of the game where you were using Teshar before. So you made these runs better, but you completely removed it from another part of the game. So thereby, in my opinion, this is a nerf, because you still didn't really have much problem in it. It just wasn't reliable, wasn't as fast. And if that's what you're complaining about, then that's kind of dumb. Lightning Emperor. So before, it just kind of healed based off damage received. It looks like the heal wasn't that big anyway, because if something does 100% damage and you only give back 35%, that means you're still down 65 net damage percent. They changed it to max HP stuff, so this might be pretty big because of how the max HP stuff works with the mermaids, that you can potentially not only negate the damage that these things are doing, like if the damage was too weak, like it can't break a shield basically, but if it doesn't even do enough damage for that part of it, you can actually maybe even gain health every time that unit gets attacked. So this could be better, but again, it could be like Huadam, where it just kind of sits there and does absolutely nothing, and eventually it'll run out. Dark Vampire, Cadiz nuts. Vampire Bat, more chance to remove beneficial effect, that's okay. And Feast of Blood is absorbed as attack bar is increased to 20%, so now he's a mini Verti heal on its own. So the kit was already pretty decent. First skill was beneficial effect removal. Second skill is beneficial block. And the passive, so which basically works on both of the skills, it applies branding effect and it heals with the damage. So that's still pretty good for all that stuff. And so I don't know why they buffed this at all, but at least they made it a little bit better. Dark Heart Lady, Hell Lady. This is Kraka. Kraka was a spokeschild for Summoner's War forever. She's that one loading screen that says Kraka. Summon Perpetrator is the third skill, the revive thing. So now it revives all the allies and does the exact same stuff. So I really don't see this being used in RTA or in Guild Wars, Guild Siege. Maybe in some kind of PvE thing, like a hard TOA hard or something, where your units probably die too much. You can bring them all back, or like Labyrinth, because most Labyrinths you have a reviver. The lab boss, anyway. Where this affects everyone else, there's a TOA hard stage where the Dark Hell Lady is the boss. And she comes with, I think they're 4 Infernos, or something where you kill them. When you kill the other monsters, they basically explode and kill you back. And so now this one revives and brings that skill off cooldown and makes you do that again and get nerfed or get nuked again. So this might make that one TOA hard stage even that much more annoying. Hell Lady Wind Ethna Capture. Third skill. Hits a bunch of times and then stuns on the last one. So now you actually steal the effect instead of just removing it. It's a nice little change. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Water Oracle Praha Daydream. This is a healing effect. Puts enemies to sleep with one turn for 50% chance and now 100% chance. Now, people are like, oh my god, this is a crazy buff. I can't believe they did this. I'm looking at this like they should have done this in day one. Because right after, I mean, she was bad to begin with. She was basically a giant meme, just a big joke. And then, okay, put everything to sleep for, 50% chance. And then she was like, okay, let's use it. And then they realized that she's still just a big joke. And so right away, they should have buffed that part of it. I don't even remember when they buffed it, maybe a year or two ago. I mean, basically that next day, I was like, this should have been 100%. And so for them to finally do that, like 2 years later, it's just like, really now? And then everyone's praising this? It's like, well, I guess Contrast is doing something right, but in my opinion, it's still like, about time? So, nice buff. I don't see everyone... I'm not going to use this any more than they would normally use this anyway. But I guess some people might, and then especially if you don't have much of the other stuff. It makes it a little bit better. But yeah, this should have been done a long time ago. Unicorn Human Form Fire. This is Helena. Swaying Flame. Swaying Flame is another AoE defense break for 2 turns. It also absorbs attack bar. And it looks like they changed it to 50% no matter what. Well, except for resistance checks. And it steals the attack bar from all the enemies equally. They're still left alive. What people don't realize is the Unicorn's human form has a passive that says every critical hit will gain 25% attack bar. And so basically if there are 2 more enemies that are still alive, you can easily and most likely get that 100% attack bar, and then it can turn cycle just like the sister Diana. And this would be a good buff maybe like a year or 2 ago when Diana was still in the meta. But you almost don't even see her at all anymore. But we'll try it because somehow I max skilled it and I never used it in like 2 years. I think it was during those downtimes where I didn't really get any nat 5s for a couple months. Art Master Watcher Art of Blank Space. What this currently does, it if the enemy tries to remove its own harmful effects, then your whole team gets 25% attack bar. Even if it just tries to remove one effect, like if you did this on a Juno, you automatically get 25% attack bar. When the enemy removes beneficial effects from your team, the attack bar of the ally with the removed beneficial effects will be increased by 25%. So when they try to strip you, that unit gets 25%. So this could be pretty cool, like on arena defense, or even arena offense. So basically, when Triton attacks you, you can actually cancel each other out. But if it does enough damage to trigger like a nemesis, then you can probably cut in, or you actually gain the turn, because basically you'll net positive attack bar with the nemesis. Triton will attempt to decrease the attack bar by 25%, but this ability increases by 25%. So that'll cut out, and then the Nemesis takes over. If you actually use like Chiwu, and you only have Will on your team, Chiwu is only 15% decrease attack bar. So then you net a positive 10% attack bar, and then you can essentially cut in when anyone uses a Chiwu. So this could be pretty good because of that ability. Art Master Wind Serious Matter. This skill is an AoE. It attacks 3 times. It'll decrease attack bar of all enemies. Now it's changed to 75%. If your attack bar goes to 0, it will skill reset for 1 turn, like a Samoth kind of second skill, Daphne's second skill. So that's a pretty big one. I mean, this is the 3rd skill. So think of this like Poseidon combined with the Samoth second skill. There's also another added effect, not added effect, but Windmaster also got Awakening modification. Moondrawn by Clouds is the second skill. This one's an AoE strip with glancing. Now this one also gets a defense break with 2 turns. So basically it's a big giant poop on the Light Phoenix's face. However, I'm pretty sure that this is, like I said before, you basically strip, attack, and armor break at the same time, so you don't get the bonuses of the defense when you do damage, as you would on the Light Phoenix. But for the most part, this is exactly what you wanted to do anyway. So why this is so important is if you actually get this on like a on a violence set, you can potentially AoE strip, glancing, armor break, and then proc into this skill, which will reduce attack bar to 0 pretty easily, and then skill reset everything for 1 turn. And that's basically crazy overpowered. And obviously that's like, yeah, probably going to be meta changing. If you can do the combo anyway, but yeah, that's crazy. Fire Demon, Baal, I think his name is, Flames of Hell is a 3rd skill. Performs an attack that has an attribute advantage on all enemies, blocks all enemies from removing harmful effects for 1 turn. Inflicts continuous damage that can't be resisted, and the number of continuous damage dots is proportional to the damage dealt. Now the interesting thing about this skill is the continuous damage dots has always been unreliable. Before even this buff, it was like 1 to 3 and you had no idea why. And similar to like Zyros, the second skill, which is like 1 to 4 and it was just random. And they actually changed it to be proportional to the amount of damage dealt. But then it seemed like it was always 2. Like you couldn't get the 3, and it was very unlikely you'll get the 1. Maybe if you glanced and you had no attack buff, no defense break, and they had shield and everything else, then you did 1 dot. I mean, it was kind of a weird situation where they didn't think this was that good to begin with. And I don't think they fixed it here either. But this new thing about blocking the ability to cleanse. All harmful effects cannot be removed while the harmful effect removal block, that's called herb, is on. While using a skill that removes harmful effects, including the transferring thing, like Sea Emperor's first skill, and I think one of the Dryads have that whole transfer thing. Harmful effect removal is blocked, will be removed first. And if a monster has multiple harmful effects, then yeah, you have to cleanse twice. The first cleanse will remove the herb effect. Second cleanse will cleanse everything else. If you have a Juno will remove the harmful effect, but all the other buffs will remain on that turn. If you have a Veligil, basically it'll cleanse just the harmful, just the herb effect, and then everything else will remain unless you do it again. So you're basically going to have immunity and a whole bunch of other debuffs that you can't cleanse until the next round of everything. So interesting mechanic. However, I think the rest of the Fire Demon mechanic sucks. So this might be fun to try, but you're gonna have to bring a cleanser or bring a stripper, bring this thing, and then bring something that applies all the debuffs. And I don't see that being used for Siege or Guild Wars, but in an RTA maybe, just for fun. But we'll see on this thing. It's a new ability. Alright, free to play section. Fire Pirate Captain Karak. Detonation shot. This is a pretty good nuke. What it does is it explodes a bomb, if there's one. So it looks like the added effect is if a bomb was exploded, then all the other bombs go down by 1 turn. That's pretty big. This is like a Sierra almost. So you kind of want it to be the 1 turn thing, so then as soon as the enemy moves, the bomb will explode in his face, they lose a turn and get stunned. So that's actually not bad. I don't see, like, obviously I have a Sierra, so I don't know if I'd build that. But if you don't, then that'd be kind of good. Pirate Captain Wind, Shoot and Slash. Increase your attack power by 35% each critical hit. What this ability does, it's the 3rd skill, and it actually slashes and shoots. Don't let the name fool you. Picture Galleon. Galleon will use the 1st skill, which is the slash, and it'll do a 1-turn defense break. Followed by the 2nd skill, which is the shoot, which is an attack bar absorption of, I think it's 30 to 50%. So I'm assuming you get the full attack bar bonus and you get to move again. I don't see this being relevant or even fun. I'd recommend Logan, the Wind Neostone Fighter, or Yen, the Wind Rakshasa, as better, more fun units than this thing. Pirate Captain Light, Disarm, increased damage. This is like the most like lazy kind of buffing they can do. They're just like, I just give up on this one. Death Knight, Deadly Blow. 1st skill, this is a heal block. Crushing hit. Yeah, who cares? Death Knight, Firewind Light, Deadly Wave. This is an AoE attack break. Increased damage. Who cares? You don't ruin these for damage. Death Knight, Water Dark. Check and Destroy is a 2-hit thing. The 1st hit, attack break. 2nd hit, defense break. Turn reduction. Basically use the Dark One, R5, the old school ones. That's about it. Death Knight, Water Decline. This is an interesting skill. Decrease cooldown. This is a AoE cleanse with a 1-turn immunity, and I think it's a 2-turn or 3-turn reflection or something. Reflect damage. Death Knight, Fire Extortion. Everyone should know what this does. This is Arnold. He was used basically to counter Molongs. Molong will hit him with the Reckless Assault, trigger the passive, or trigger Nemesis, and you extort it back, hopefully killing it. And then you can absorb the attack, you get more attack bar. But it'd be kind of weird because absorbing it, basically when Molong just moved before and you're cutting everything else, so that essentially the attack bar of Molong is going to be 0 anyway. So I don't know, that's kind of weird. You could probably also use this to kill a Miho. Death Knight Wind supplies the revive. Now, after it's revived, recovers the HP of all the allies. That's okay, I guess, but the revive stuff's kind of stupid. Basically, they want to buff the revive part, they need to buff the stats on the artifacts. Artifacts are the biggest thing in the game right now, and those stats for the revive stuff is pretty crap. And basically, the amount of times you're going to actually use the revive skills is so infrequently that it's inefficient to ruin the artifacts in the ways to use the revive parts of it. And even then it's only like small percentages. I think it even goes up to maybe 15%. So it's like getting an extra, you know, percent here and there. And even on the quad roll is just totally inefficient. You might as well ruin it for something else like complete damage negation of an element, or even the crit damage one. But yeah, this is... The revives are just garbage. Like I said in the artifact videos, if you have a whole bunch of the ones like this one and the inability ones, you basically just sell it. Light Death Knight, trade ability, increases the shield amount. I don't know what this does actually. But change the HP ratio with the enemy target and increase the shield proportionate level. I guess it's like Harmonia, but it's only on yourself. That's highly situational because either you're making this your tank, or on a last-ditch effort to save one of your allies, you create a shield and then you give up your health with something else on the other side, which would probably be lower. So that doesn't make too much sense. So I don't get it at all. Having a shield proportionate to your level is really never a good thing. I can think of Fuko mainly. He's the Wind Lich. I think it's like a 100 HP shield per level. So level 40, it's like a 4,000 shield, which is not much, especially compared to other shield things that are proportionate to your max HP, similar to the paladins, the mermaids, and even like Rena. And I mean, in fact, they changed all the mermaids from the proportionate part to the max shield part to the max HP part, and now they're crazy overpowered. And before, this was just like nothing. So I don't know, it all depends on how much the shield is and how much they decide to do it with the proportion part. But for the most part, it's always garbage. Cobalt Bombers, Wind, Water, Light. These are the ones with the bombing capability, and even though these say bombs, these are actually the third skills. And it looks like they're all landing as crushing hits. If you don't know what a crushing hit is, it's somewhere between a normal hit and a critical hit. It's basically the most damage you can do while not critting. The biggest thing to know about these things is that, especially with the Cobalt Bomber's bomb ability, it only relies on attack. So, because you do not need the crit rate or crit damage really anywhere anymore, except for maybe the first skill, but for this one and the second skill, you can actually ruin these Cobalt Bombers to be like highly efficient units. You basically say, like you saw my rune video, all primary stats. So the key ones are attack for the damage, and then speed, obviously for speed, and then you can beef it up with some HP percent and defense percent, and then the rest you focus on accuracy. You just never have to worry about crit rate or crit damage on these bombers ever again because of that. Phantom Thief Water, Lure. Crime Alert's a third skill. It's another AoE defense break for 2 turns, and also reduces attack bar of the enemies by 50%. And now you get an increased damage by 190%. This is actually also a crushing hit, same with this one. And from the looks of it, they changed the second skill, Arrest, to also be crushing hit. So, same as the Cobalt Bombers. You build Lure, maximum efficiency, nothing but the primary stats, and then accuracy. And so it's kind of going to be interesting to see how much damage these can actually do. But like I said, you focus mainly on attack because that's what's going to be based off of. And you don't worry about crit rate or crit damage. And ideally that makes it easier to rune, or at least more efficient. The Arrest is the second skill. It's an 80% chance to stun. It's pretty high. I think it's capped at 80%. I don't think it can go to 100. The Phantom Thief's first skill, at max skill, is a 50% chance to also stun. So it's a very good stun machine as well as an attack bar pushback with Crime Alert. Phantom Thief Light, decreased cooldown of the turn by 1, grants HP recovery for 2 turns. I think this is the one that gives invulnerability for 2 turns, but for the most part I think it looks like it's still garbage. Epikeon Priest, Absorb Mana is the first skill, now absorbs more. And it's based off the max HP, so basically makes arenas annoying and now a little bit extra annoying. Water, Fire, Light, Fill is a healing thing, so now it affects all the other allies instead of the one other. It's okay. Block Flow for Wind and Dark, second skill. I think this one increases the duration of the beneficial block by 1 and reduces the harmful effects by 1 turn also. And then it also heals for 10%. And then it does the extra stuff right here, which looks like an increase based on how many harmful effects and beneficial effects that were affected by the block flow. So it's an interesting healing thing. I'm guessing kind of like a cleanse, but yeah, kind of a weak cleanse to be honest. Epikeon Priest. I wonder if these are considered cleanses that would affect that water Art Master, because you're not really, it's not really a buff removal, it's a turn reduction. So that's kind of an interesting thing to try to look out for. Epikeon Priest Wind Soul Revival decreases the cooldown time by 1 turn. The revive, so who cares? You already saw what I said about the reviving abilities, basically buff the artifacts and then make all the revive stuff better. Epikeon Priest Dark, new ability, attacks enemy 3 times, inflict great damage, attack will deal more damage according to max HP. If the enemy dies, you get a shield based on the target's max HP for 2 turns. I don't know where we'd use this, and it all depends on how strong this is. But for the most part, yeah, I wouldn't know how to use it. I don't think it'd be that great for this ability. I mean, it's still a 3-star, so I don't think it's gonna be that strong. But I don't know, maybe someone will test it. So, Death Knight Light, you skill up, now it's shield increased. We already talked about this one. The second skill nuke gets a free turn. This one became super strong and just pooped on the Light Phoenix. So now you have an AoE strip, defense break, glancing on the second skill. Minor bug fixes, so stuff happened that shouldn't have happened, or it didn't happen. Alright, who cares? Fire Paladin, Cry of Threat, skill description change. I'm assuming it's just this thing. So basically some genius decided to bring threat state into one of the bosses of TOA, and then the boss didn't give a crap, killed his other units, made him restart the level all over again. He complained that he wasted 30 minutes to an hour doing that level, and complained enough to where Contos is like, alright, we have to put this part in there. Boss excluded. The other thing to note, there's kind of a questionable part, I think, with if you watch Bagelmon's video, where the Fire Demon has this part where it says blocks all enemies, boss excluded, from removing harmful effects. However, it doesn't say boss excluded from the note of the actual harmful effect thing. So, all harmful effects can not be removed if the harmful thing is on, which means that the Fire Demon can't do it on buffs. However, there could be another unit that gets the same herb effect that could potentially do this on a boss. That's what the note, that's what the little fine print says. So until they put this boss excluded part in the actual description of the herb effect, there's still potential that you could do this on the basically the Dragon's B12. Highly unlikely, but it's a possibility that needs to be addressed. Alright, final thing for this patch is how you rate it. Now the way I rate it is I first go to the free to play section, which is Pirate Captain to Apricot Priest. Basically nat 4s and nat 3s. You look at this list and you go, what is now a must build? And quite frankly, none of it. You compare this to the last one, which were all the mermaids. Even like the wind one, the Cichlid, Chickchild, Chicklid, whatever its name is. Got the Awakens in the speed, became super fast, and now the makes everything in that with that unit just that much better. Because now you can get a turn, you can use the third skill, which is a defense break, more damage, and a skill reset. And then it also got the new it didn't really get the max HP thing, it was already there, but that ability became super strong with the artifacts, and so now that unit is actually pretty relevant. And so now all the mermaids are actually very good. Even Molly, who's technically not really free to play, but it's still in this kind of category, became OP. Now you see an RTA in the finals of like SWC and everywhere. I even had that on my arena defense, and you saw how that's doing. And also want to build Ayunu. So in that one patch where they started giving Oblivion to other units, Ayunu is a very unique unit, the Wind Anubis, whose second skill can Obliviate and Branding on each of 3 hits. So you can potentially kill a Theomars using that skill in 1 hit, or 1 attack. So that's one of the ones I wanted to build a long time ago, but just never got around to it. But as opposed to this thing, there's nothing that's must build. Next thing we do is we go to the next style of free-to-play section, which is the Elemental Nat 5s. We talked about the Teshar the Wind Phoenix, which this seems like it's more of a nerf. It's an AI fixed, but you lost the ability because of this attack bar thing. So you're basically losing an area of the game you had him use before. At least I did with the Labyrinth stage. So even though everything else is more consistent, you lost him in one of the other levels. So I'm looking at that as a nerf, because now you're using him in less areas of the game. And I still don't see him using Siege, Guild Wars, RTA, or anything like that. Wind Hell Lady, Ethna, she became better. I mean, that's basically it. You basically ruin her for what she does anyway, and now she just does it better. Nothing like, okay, now I have to build her. It's more like I already built her, and now she's just better at what she's doing. Same with the Oracle. It's basically the same place you're going to use her anyway. I don't know if you're going to actually use this to be the primary object of everything. But to me, this is, yeah, like I said before, this should have been fixed a long time ago. This one might be a little bit better, at least than it was. People don't realize that she has a passive in the human form that has attack bar. People are just saying, well, it's still 50%, that's not going to get her a free turn. People are idiots, yeah. Art Master, like I said, arena defense against any of those strippers, you can essentially just laugh in their face and cut the turns. So this might be pretty big. And it's basically like pushes your all your monsters like that. So basically like a better ragdoll. For one turn anyway, for the strips. Wind Art Master, like I said, this one is probably the one that's going to be very, very strong, because now you have a strip, you have AoE armor break, you have attack bar reduction, and a skill reset. So that's all like the crazy stuff. That's a whole bunch of monsters in one. Fire Demon gets a new ability, and we'll find out whether or not the new ability is going to be relevant. So at least maybe 1 point here, because you made the Art Masters pretty good, and you made everything else slightly better, but nothing crazy. And then for my opinion on the LD Nat 5s is, who cares? The chances are most people will not have these LD Nat 5s. Obviously I have one of these in like 6 years, 7 years of playing. And you look at some of these, like maybe the last one, the bounce patch with the Dark Ninja, crazy OP, now relevant. I'm looking at like, well, it took me 7 years to get a crappy one. It'll probably may take me another 7 years to get a new one. And whether or not that'll be relevant, I don't know. And so you basically say, okay, when I get one, this will be relevant. As it is now, I don't really care. The only one I do care about is this one, that Dark Hell Lady, because I'm now going to be fighting this thing that's newly buffed in TOA, and it might make me that much more angry when something bad happens. Just like the Artemil buff. So in reality, it's probably like a 1 out of 5, maybe a 2 out of 5, because the Art Masters are finally good and you have a new ability. So maybe 3 out of 10, 2 out of 10, that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, I think this balance patch is pretty trashed. I mean, basically they nerfed my only LD Nat 5. So this is LPL Tree. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you agree or disagree on anything, if I said something wrong. And thank you for watching. Have a good night, good day, good whatever. Goodbye.